من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أرسله الله بالحق بين يدي الساعة بشيرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا فمن يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد واهتدى ومن يعص الله ورسوله فقد ضل وغوى ولا يضر إلا نفسه ولن يضر الله شيئا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وإن كل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم من همزه ونفخه ونفثه ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون. Imam Bukhari rahmahullah ta'ala, inside his Sahih, he has recorded from the Tabi'i Az-Zubayr ibn Adi rahmahullah ta'ala, where he said that شكونا أنس بن مالك رضي الله تعالى عنهما نلقى من الحجاج, that we approached Sayyidina Anas bin Malik رضي الله تعالى عنه وأرضاه خادم رسول الله, the servant of the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم, to complain to him what we find of tyranny and of oppression from Hajjaj bin Yusuf Thaqfi. And he said to us, Isbiru, be patient, have patience with you, فإنه لا يأتي عليكم زمان إلا والذي بعده شر منه. Because there will not come upon you any time, any age, any number of years, except that the years that come later, the years that will precede it, will come after, will be worse and more evil than the years that have come before. سَمِعْتُهُ مِن نَبِيِّكُمْ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. I heard this statement from your Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم. From this very short hadith, one benefit that we take is that the closer mankind, the closer we get to Yawm al-Qiyamah, the nearer we approach to the day of resurrection, the times will come worse. The ages will come worse, the environment and the societies, they will worsen the closer mankind get to Yawm al-Qiyamah. They will not come upon you any age, any time, except that that which comes later will be worse than that which came before. It will be more evil, there will be more trouble than that which had preceded. And as the pious people they die, as the ulama they die, as the salihin they die and they leave this dunya, then the world will be inherited by those who are evil and those who love corruption, and the shayateen will become more and evil will spread. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that shaitan, not only does he cause evil himself, does he incite evil himself, transgression against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rather likewise he also has his minions with him. He also has his soldiers who they carry out his duties for him, for Iblis and for shaitan. As he mentioned Jalla wa Ala, فَكُبْكِبُوا فِيهَا وَالْغَاوُونَ. They will be thrown in the fire of Jahannam in the context of that which is worshipped beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those idols which they worship will be thrown in the fire of Jahannam. And those who cause people to go astray, وَجُنُودُ إِبْلِيسِ أَجْمَعُونَ. And likewise the soldiers of Iblis, all of them, they will be cast into the fire of Jahannam. Iblis has his junud, has his soldiers, has his minions who they do his work for him. And from the greatest of the victories of shaitan, what he has in store for mankind, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions, فَيَتَعَلَّمُونَ مِنْهُمَا مَا يُفَرِّقُونَ بِهِ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَزَوْجِهِ. That they, shayateen, the jinns, they cause separation between man and wife. From the greatest of evil that shaitan has plagued mankind with is to separate between husband and wife, to cause separation between them. As in Sahih Muslim, Sayyidina Jabir radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, he says that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam said that inna iblisa yada'u arshahu ala al-ma'. That Iblis, shaitan, he places his throne upon the ocean. As وَكَانَ عَرْشُهُ عَلَى الْمَاءِ. The throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was above water. To compete with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, shaitan places his arsh, his throne, upon water. And then he sends out ثُمَّ يَبْعَثُ سَرَايَا. Then he sends out his armies into this dunya, into this world, to plague the world and to cause evil and corruption in this world. And when they come back to Iblis, they come back to him and they give their report of what evil they have performed. He says to each one of his soldiers, مَا صَنَعْتَ شَيْئًا. You have done nothing. All this evil you have done, this is nothing in my sight. You are not worthy of anything. And then one of his footmen, one of his soldiers, one of the shayateen will come to Iblis and say that I kept on pestering this person. I kept on pestering him, kept annoying him and annoying him. مَا تَرَكْتُهُ حَتَّى فَرَّقْتُ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ امْرَأَتِهِ. Until I kept on prodding him, until I separated between him and his wife. I caused him to divorce his wife. I separated between the both of them. And when this shaitan says this to Iblis, he brings him nearer to him, فَيُدْنِي. He brings him nearer to him and he says, نَعَمْ أَنْتَ. Yes, you are the one who has caused actual strife in this dunya. When you cause trouble between a husband and his wife, when you cause them to separate, when they divorce from one another. Because our society is built of families, of homes, and the zawal, the decline of the home is the decline of the society. Once the home has been ruined, once the house has been destroyed, then in effect all of society will feel the repercussions of that. All of society will follow and the society also will be destroyed. So as a family, as a household, being Muslims, being believers in Allah and His Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, what is the solution? How to keep our marriages intact? How to prevent this spread like wildfire of divorce? Where a man, he becomes angry and he says to his wife, talaq, 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 bas, and she is divorced. How to safeguard our families from this marad and this suqm, from this disease and this illness which has plagued us, especially in this time. Such a time where an unprecedented rates of divorce are sky high. How many families, how many couples, they become married, within 1 or 2 years they have separated. Within a couple of years, then they have divorced from one another. The first step to take, how to prevent this spread of talaq and of divorce and separation of husband and wife and destruction of families and the separation of children from their parents. Number one is before marriage. Before a person, he becomes married or she becomes married, before they enter into the aqd of nikah, while they choose their spouse, whilst they are choosing their spouse, their potential husband or wife in the future, whilst they are making this selection, many of us, we overlook the most important aspect to choose, and that is the deen of this person, the taqwa and the iman of this person. What is their standing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? As the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam in Bukhari and Muslim, he says, our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam said that tunkahul mar'atu li arba'in. A woman, she is married for 4 qualities that she possesses, 4 affairs that she has. لِحَسَبِهَا وَلِمَالِهَا وَلِجَمَالِهَا وَلِدِينِهَا. For the lineage that she has, for the wealth that she possesses, for the beauty she upholds, and for the religion that she has adorned herself with. فَظْفَرْ بِذَاتِ الدِّينِ تَرِبَتْ يَدَاكَ. So you should select the one who has religion to them. That person, that potential spouse of yours, who they have a connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. تَرِبَتْ يَدَاكَ. Your hands will be rubbed with dust, meaning you will become successful if you choose that woman, that spouse, who they have a connection to the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. خَيْرُ الدُّنْيَا كُلُّهَا مَتَاعٌ وَخَيْرُ مَتَاعِ الدُّنْيَا الْمَرْأَةُ الصَّالِحَةُ. This world, it is all about goods, and the best treasure a man can possess is a righteous wife. Al-mar'atu salihah. If the foundation is based upon religion, upon deen, upon taqwa, upon iman, then by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that seed which has been sowed, when it becomes into a flower, it will be as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described, Hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahunna. The husband and wife, they will be garments for one another. They will be clothing for one another, because our thiyab, our garments, they protect one another. They protect our bodies. Any uyub, any defects that we have, our garments, they cover that for us. Our garments, they beautify us. Our garments, they protect us from the wind, from the rain, from the heat. That is how a husband and wife should be to one another. Hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahunna. If this was always the case, how it should be, but it is not always this case. That people, they choose their spouse based upon diyana, upon the religiosity of that person. Then, once a person has become married, once they have entered into wedlock, the majority of the cases where divorce is pronounced quickly without any thinking, then majority of the time, the reason for that is because this husband and wife, they do not have understanding between one another. They do not have trust between one another. They do not understand each other. The husband, he does not understand the wife, and the wife, she does not understand her husband. And when we look in Kitab and Sunnah, then for example, in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, what did he say? That Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Istawsu bin nisa'i khayra. He said, I urge you to be good to your women folk. Why? فَإِنَّ الْمَرْأَةَ خُلِقَتْ مِنْ ضِلْعِ. Because certainly the woman, she has been created from a rib, the bent rib. If you try to straighten it out, it will break. And if you leave it as it is, it will be bent. So be good to your women, meaning have understanding. If you are always harsh, or if you are always relaxed with them, they will always be bent. Rather have understanding between them. Understand them how? Because your afkar are not the same as her afkar. Your thinking, your mentality, your attitude is not the same as her thinking and her attitude. And her attitude and her thinking is not the same as your thinking and your attitude. Rather, you have to have understanding between one another. And the Prophet ﷺ, how he had understanding between his wives. Sayyidah Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, she says, again in Bukhari and Muslim, that our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, Inni la'arafu ghadabaki wa ridaki. Oh Aisha, I know and I have understanding of when you are happy and when you are angry. When you are angry with me, I can tell. And when you are pleased and satisfied with me, I can tell. And she asked, how is that, Ya Rasulullah? And he said, because when you are happy, when you are pleased with me, you say, La wa Rabbi Muhammad. And when you are angry, you say, La wa Rabbi Ibrahim. When you are happy, you take my name. You swear by the Lord of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And when you are angry with me, when you are annoyed with me, you say, La wa Rabbi Ibrahim. She does not take his name sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. She takes an oath by the Lord of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. And he did not rebuke her. Rather, he had an understanding. When she says this, I understand she is annoyed with me. And when she says, Wa Rabbi Muhammad, I understand she is pleased with me. She is happy with me today. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has commanded us with. وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Live with them in ways that are the best of means. And likewise the wife, also to have understanding with her husband, that her husband is a means for her entry into paradise, and could be a means for her entrance into the hellfire. نعوذ بالله من ذلك. أيما امرأة صلت خمسها وصامت شهرها وأحسنت فرجها وأطاعت بعلها. Any woman, any wife who she offers her 5 daily prayers, and she fasts her month of Ramadan, and she safeguards her private parts, and she obeys her husband, it will be said to her, enter into paradise from min ayyi abwabil jannati thamaniyati sha'at. From whichever of the 8 doors of paradise she wishes, enter into them. If she applies these 4 things, if she has ita'ah, if she obeys her husband, because her husband could be a means of her entering into paradise. To have understanding between both parties, between the husband and between the wife. And most of this could be avoided if we understand one thing, and that is that in this life, each one of us, we are keen and we are eager to have our huquq, our rights, that which is due to us, that which is owed to us, our rights. I want my right, my right, my right. And we forget about our mas'uliyat. We turn a blind eye to our responsibilities, we are mas'ul. Kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi. Each one of us is responsible and will be questioned about our responsibilities. The way is to forget about your huquq. Act upon your responsibilities. Make sure you are performing what you are responsible for performing, and your huquq will come to you. Don't always be, I want my haqq, my haqq, my haqq. No, rather act upon your responsibilities, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made you mas'ul for, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made you responsible for, and your huquq will come toward you. Your rights will come to you if you act, number 1, upon your responsibilities. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولجميع المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. Due to the sacred bond of that relationship between husband and wife, which has been made halal by the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, any sort of uprising, people they poke against the husband toward his wife or the wife toward her husband, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam said, as in the hadith of Sayyidina Abu Dawud, لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ خَبَّبَ إِمْرَأَةً عَلَى زَوْجِهَا. He is not among us the one who he prods a woman against her husband, the one who prods and pokes and encourages a woman to be against her husband. He is not among this ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And sometimes this affair leads to divorce, where friends, a person's friends, they will annoy him. They will say, your wife is X, Y, Z. They prod and they urge this man against his wife or this wife against her husband. And the sad thing is, sometimes this comes from inside the family. The aunts and the uncles, the relatives, they will speak and they will urge this husband against his wife or the wife against her husband. And sometimes even, wallah al-musta'an, even from the parents this can come. The parents are unhappy, so they will prod and they will provoke the wife against the husband or the husband against the wife. As if this married couple, as if they are children that they are being played around with by the relatives and by the friends and by the mother and by the father. Rather, we must know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is watching us Jalla wa ala, and He will hold us responsible for this aqd, for this contract of nikah by the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which has been taken place by His name subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He will hold us responsible. As I mentioned, each one of us is responsible, and each one of us will be questioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about his responsibility. Each one of us has mistakes. Each one of us has flaws. Each one of us, we have defects inside of us. And similarly, our spouses, they will have defects. They will have imperfections inside of them. But what did I say? Isbiru. In the beginning of this khutbah, have patience. The woman, she must have patience with her husband. And the husband, he must have patience with his wife. Imam Ahmed rahmahullah ta'ala, when he was asked about his relationship with his wife after she had died, he said that for so many years, I never had an argument with her and she never had an argument with me. How? For some of us, one day, one night cannot go past without us arguing with each other. How did this take place? He said, whenever she became angry, I became silent and I had patience. And whenever she became angry, whenever I became angry, she was silent. Whenever she became angry, I was silent. To have patience with one another, to be patient upon their defects, to be patient upon their imperfections and that which are their ma'aib inside of them. If they have one thing which is wrong, which is imperfect, then they will have 100 things which will bring you pleasure, which will bring you happiness, which will please you when you look toward them. And if at any time that this divorce does come about, as there are legitimate reasons for it to come about, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after all avenues have been taken of islah, of rectification, of joining between them, if there is nothing left, the last step, it comes to talaq and divorce, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأَمْسِكُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ فَارِقُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ. If you remain with them, if you stay with them, your wives, stay with goodness. And if you have to release them, if you have to separate from them, then separate from them in goodness. بِمَعْرُوفٍ, in ways of goodness, and not to be evil with your wife. That you have now divorced her and you will keep her in your house for her iddah, and you will be evil and you will be horrible to her. No. بِمَعْرُوفٍ, with goodness, with all types of ma'roof. And وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever they have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah dhul jalali wal ikram will make a route out for them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make things easy for them. وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide from them from where they did not ever expect. So this affair of separating between husband and wife, it is not something that should be taken lightly. Not something that should be taken as a joke, that the wife will joke about with the husband or the husband will joke with the wife about this affair of separation. Because as I mentioned, this is the one thing shaitan, he gets the most happiest about. Because this the destruction of the household, it is the destruction of the society. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He safeguards our families. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows our marriages to remain intact. هذا ما عندي والله تعالى أعلى وأعلم بالصواب وعلمه أتم إن أريد إلا الإصلاح ما استطعت وما توفيقي إلا بالله عليه توكلت وإليه أنيب. اللهم وفقنا لما تحب وترضى. اللهم زينا بزينة الإيمان واجعلنا هداة مهتدين. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا مع الراشدين. اللهم طهر قلوبنا من النفاق وأعمالنا من الرياء وألسنتنا من الكذب وأعيننا من الخيانة فإنك تعلم خائنة الأعين وما تخفي الصدور. اللهم اغفر لنا ولجميع موتانا وموتى المسلمين واشفنا واشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين وعافنا وعاف مبتلانا ومبتلى المسلمين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين.